I find it interesting that we have a mayor now that's saying that we've got to build up the city of Halifax. We're paying his salary and he's toting the community that's virtually unknowingly destroying us. Here in Nova Scotia, Halifax is the capital, Halifax is the port city, Halifax is everything. And I don't think you can blame the citizens of Halifax, but I certainly think you can blame the politicians and the civil servants in Halifax for either their abundant ignorance or disrespect for rural Nova Scotia. Federal government have told us that 26% of it comes because of the relative weakness in property tax fiscal capacity. So we're saying distribute that. But when they only redistribute about 5.6% of what they should be distributing to the municipalities, that's just totally immoral. I certainly feel that Premier McNeil is bouncing the books on the backs of children in our community and in other communities across the province who are living in poverty, and we have the highest child poverty rate off reserve almost anywhere in Canada. And at the same time, he'll take credit and say, I'm balancing the budget. It's just ridiculous. The Now or Never report is more never than now. There's certainly been people examining it, but the reality is that unless they look seriously at what they're doing to rural Nova Scotia, the Annapolis Valley for years was a very, very prosperous area of the province where there were manufacturing plants, there were meat plants, there were very, very productive areas. We've tracked it since 99, 2000. And even then, there should have been a distribution of about 300 million to the municipalities at that time. And they got 10% of it at that time. And that was the last year that even the provincial program was respected by the premier of the day was under Russell McClellan, and the provincial formula, as calculated, each municipality got its full entitlement. Since that time, it dropped down to about 42% of the entitlement. The government of the day that came in, this McNeil government that was going to be such an open and honest government, have failed to provide to the municipalities what their entitlement to is under the provincial program. What they're attempting to do is a cover-up. Not only are they not giving you what you're entitled to, but they're not even going to let you know what's going on anymore. So to talk about the fact that as they move forward into deeper into the education business, that you're going to be able to contact your government directly. We've spent a year and a half trying to contact our minister in our community on the issue of equalization, and that's not happening. If the rest of Canadians knew how little of the money flows to the entitled people, they would be enraged. They're already upset that they're sending it, but if they realize that it's going to the wealthiest of the wealthy within Nova Scotia rather than to the poorest of poor, if it was the Salvation Army or the United Way, the government would step in and shut them down if only 5.6% of the money that was given goes to the people that are entitled.
I, Jody Wilson-Raybould, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada.
If you were to go back and take the present Prime Minister's instructions to all of the people that he invited to join his cabinet, it was very clear what he said to the Justice Minister, that she was to protect and follow the Constitution, and that if you look at the Constitution, it's very clear that it's to provide relatively equal services for relatively equal taxation. Well, you can readily see that we're the poorest of poor, and we have tax rates that are 87% higher. The present government in Ottawa better hope that the rest of Canadians never find out how poorly administered their program is. And it certainly doesn't add any dignity to the senior Trudeau that the program is administered the way it is today through both Justice Department and the Finance Department. If, in fact, this issue doesn't get resolved quickly, I think we'll see this province self-destruct. I mean, Halifax alone is not enough to call itself a province. I think Dan Christmas summed it up very, very well in saying that it's dying and something has to be done. I think that something would be significant if, in fact, our constitutional guarantees were respected. That we'd be far better off not even being a part of this province if, in fact, they don't respect that right. I had some friends over the years that would have been very happy to see us separate. I was certainly surprised when a senator would step up and say that may be the only appropriate thing to do. I certainly think we'd be better off if we had more control. I mean, if you just simply look at Prince Edward Island. Now, they say it's against the Constitution. You'd have to have 8 provinces agree and the federal government agree. But what does the Constitution mean? We know the Constitution at this point in time is meaningless. So here we are celebrating, just finished celebrating our 150th year, and we rave about the fact that Nova Scotian was the first place with representative government. You'd have to be naive to believe that our representatives are there for us. I mean, it's just not there. So yes, certainly we'd be a lot better off if we could bring our politicians that can make a difference closer to us. If it was fair, I don't think anybody would have a complaint if it was fair. I really don't. I think that, like, I was always proud to say I was from Nova Scotia, and certainly my mother was from Pictou County, and my wife is from the Annapolis Valley, so I'm not against Nova Scotians, but I'm certainly against injustice.